Dan Fedick didn't grow up with a passion for farming. He grew up in the country and worked on a vineyard for years, but wanted to be pretty far away from it once he left. Dan went into the military and came out the other end with a desire to fix things, passion for learning how things work, and a yearning for independence. All these desires and a seemingly ever-growing family led him back to where he started, back to the land. Dan is still striving to build a lifestyle that works for himself and his family while holding an off-farm internet job. The soft skills of marketing, economics, customer service, and sales have helped out on the farm. Starting a farm requires dedication and patience, but for a large family, farming just makes sense. Good quality food is expensive, and the economics of seeds are astounding. If a family is willing to work for their food, even a peasant family can eat like a king. Zion Farm is located in Loudoun County, Virginia. Dan and his family currently raise pastured poultry and grow specialty microgreens for restaurants in the area. They are working to diversify their farm further to include more livestock and permanent silvopasture systems and hope to eventually farm full-time as they transition their lives back to the land. Today, Dan and I will be discussing the essay, The Unsettling of America, by Wendell Berry in the text, The Art of the Commonplace. Hopefully this will be an ongoing series that aims to bring agrarians into the realm of philosophy and philosophers into the realm of agriculture. So, without further ado, I'm going to have a conversation with Mr. Dan Fedick. And the first question I have about Wendell Berry's The Unsettling of America is that, Dan, at the outset, Berry spends a good deal of time tracing the historical and economic forces that have created a certain American psychology. How do you understand his claims concerning the effects of these forces upon us? Is his critiques perhaps one-sided?
Yeah, I think, his critiques in general are one-sided, but he's on the side of the victim, right? Like he goes through the different, the history of Native Americans and them being displaced from basically foreign colonists. So the victim. Then those foreign colonists become native. And then once they are native, then we have this, he fast forwards into the industrial agriculture or into industrial revolution. And then there almost becomes a domestic colonization. And then, men are taken away from their homes, going off to, they're going off to the coal mines, they're going off to all these different places away from their land, away from their farm, and away from their families. And what ends up happening is you almost have okay, now I'm standing up, I'm leaving the family to go out, and it's almost like a domestic colonization that happens. So it's almost like there is a economic force upon us that pulls us away, and basically have become unnative and unsettled in our own land.
Yeah, so I wonder if you could just sort of elaborate for that, because I know what you're talking about, because I've heard the essay a number of times and prepared these questions and whatnot, but I think maybe for our viewers, if we want to sort of give them a little bit of some orienting framework, what this alien force may be, what do these victims of this alien force have in common, and what it ultimately does in that process of alienation from the different things that they have in common. So when you speak about the Native American, what their situation is originally, what happens to them, what happens to that person that conquers them, what happens to them, and eventually how we get to present day and where things are right now. I just wonder if you could tease that out just a little bit more.
Sure. So you have the Native Americans have the ability to grow their own food, hunt for their own food, gather from their own food. They're doing it in a manner of, I stay in one place, I am able to feed myself and house myself off the land. And I know that if I stay in this place, which not all Native Americans were stayed in one place, but a lot of them moved around. But most of the time they were native to an area, and they knew the area like the back of their hands. And when they were able to completely sustain themselves off the land that they had, in doing so, they knew that if they stayed in that one place, that they would have to take care of the land that they're in. And by taking care of the land, they were able to see, the forces.
I see what you're saying. Well, I think the thing that's kind of interesting to me is that someone from another perspective might say, look, there's nothing necessarily bad about colonization or this or that. We are advancing these people, and
Right.
it's not just like minorities; it's poor people as well. Like
Sure.
so, when we have
Yeah.
people like who are in cities and things like that, we're giving them upward mobility with a socioeconomic structure for them to climb to the dizzying heights of capitalism, right?
Right.
So the perspective is that like they're ultimately ushering them towards something better. But Barry is saying, no, 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 no. It's ripping them and depriving them of some more intrinsic goods that we don't celebrate on the North American continent. And I think you live out and have an intellectual understanding of what those goods might be. And maybe you can speak about what those goods are in regards to the lifestyle choices that you've made by having a large family, by returning to the land and growing a big farm and providing all these agrarian services to people in Loudoun County. What are the intrinsic goods that you see as reconnecting with the earth?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the economics behind it. You know, there's a lot to be said about when Jesus was he's talking. He was always saying like, don't toil and spin, and don't worry about tomorrow. And he was actually like, there was something to be said about like everything is provided to us. We're given land, and we're given the ability to grow food from the energy from the sun that we actually like. Everything we have, we can build a house, we can grow our own food, we can make our own clothes from the stuff that we have right here.
Why do you think that independence is important?
So that we can.
I
do that.
agree.
No,
I
absolutely.
agree. But why? What do you think Barry is trying to get at by saying like why that independence is good? I don't know if I know. I don't know if I have the answer. So I may
No, he's saying it's
scrounge
good
along.
because the difference in, so basically you look at somebody today, right? And we'll just take the internet guy. And I can just say that because I am that internet guy. But pretend I'm living in the suburbs and I've got a couple kids. I get up in the morning and then I go to the gym. And I spend a couple hours at the gym because I got to make sure my body's moving. And then I go off to work and I've left pretty much by 5. I've sat in traffic and now I'm at work and I'm behind a computer and I don't see the light of day. And I spend all day long toiling, right? And I basically have now separated myself from my family. And because of the economic culture that we live in now, it's harder to have just one person being at work. Now we have to have 2 people most of the time being at work. I mean, it's very fortunate if you have just one person at work, but leaving the home, and Barry's very much into the home as the center of culture, you know, and it stretches out from there. I think that independence is important because, okay, so now I can grow my own food. I don't have to go to work. I'm not the internet guy that has to leave 10 hours a day. And then when he comes home, he's on pager. And, you know, like he literally is not even there when he is home. And now he has this independence. Like he has a lack of independence. He's tied, you know, he's connected, but he's connected in a completely different way. He's connected, you know, via his phone, but he's not connected to his family and to anything, really. He's, you know, his food systems are disconnected. You know, his energy systems are disconnected. Like, no one even knows where the sun sets and rises. I mean, for the most part, like if you were to ask somebody, where does the sun set and where does it rise in your home, they have to really think hard about it, right? Disconnected from the natural systems that we have in place. So when you have the independence to stay home and to grow your own food and to build your own home and to do those things, you now like have nothing else to do but do that, right? So you're creating a culture of, you know, I have the ability to walk alongside my children and teach them virtues and actually be connected to my children. There's only a few things that we truly need in this world, right? We need food, we need clothing, we need some sort of connectedness with and love around us to fully prosper. And I think when the industrial agriculture or industrial age came in, it truly took people away from that independence, and it made it harder for people to actually like guide their family and to be present. I mean, I think a lot of the problems that happen today are because we have a lack of connection with our families.
I want to dovetail into that, because I think someone could say, you know what, I mean, it's incredibly obvious what he's saying about the involvement in the life of the spouse and the life of the children and the inculcation of values that you want to see your little people grow up into.
Right.
But maybe someone's like me.
Yep.
right? Say they're a single
Absolutely.
person that doesn't have a spouse, that doesn't have a family, and they say, okay, why do I need that independence? I have no wife that I need to devote myself to. I have no children that I need to devote myself to. I am this automaton. I am just out there in the world, right?
Right.
What good does independence do me? And I think, and I want you to elaborate on this, I think it goes back to a distinction that Berry makes in his essay between those who exploit and those who nurture. Because even if you're an automaton, even if you're this radically individualized person like myself that has no responsibilities to anybody else, there are going to be certain virtues that are going to be cultivated as a result of cultivating land, right? And so I wonder if you could probably draw and tease that distinction out for the people that may be listening or watching.
Sure, yeah.
And we might have to talk a little bit louder because of an airplane going around. One of the problems with shooting outside.
I think it was Louis Bromfield said, agriculture and being a farmer is basically the one profession where every single day you're dealing with the forces of nature. You're dealing with the laws of nature and the universe. So in doing so, as a farmer, you're dealing with the sun, you're dealing with the land, you're dealing with the trees around you. All these things are the core of what all other resources are built off of, right? So, for my kids, like I know that my son, I'm like 50% sure he's going to be a farmer, but I'm also 50% sure he's not going to do anything, right? Or as far as farming is concerned, he might actually go off because he's an incredible skateboarder, right? Like he'd probably be some kind of X Games kind of,
sure.
like I'm going to go out and I'm going to do my own thing.
Why choose?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing is that, for him, I feel like it doesn't matter whether or not he will be a farmer, but I feel like having the basis of having yourself connected to the land and knowing that, I know the laws of the universe and the laws of nature and the things where all things are created and are resourced from, then going into the world, you can then become a nurturer. You see when you feed a chicken, sorry, I'm pointing at a chicken. There's one walking
Yes,
right over
right on
by
camera.
yeah.
Can we beckon the chicken on camera?
Probably not. They're not real good at
They don't really listen to
coming over
names.
here. Yeah. But my kids know now that when they go out and they feed the chickens and then they go out into their pen and they can actually grab an egg, right?
So by extension, right, because they're good to the earth and they see how the earth is good to us and the convention of reciprocity, and if we're good to chickens and things like that, the yield, right, like by extension, they might turn out to be better people.
Right.
And that's kind of what the point of Berry's essay is, that the capitalist socioeconomic system is one that drives people towards exploitation.
Yep.
And if we are so willing to strip this earth of its minerals or the nutrients or whatever and kind of go into this big farming movement or something like that, and gobble up all this farmland or something like that,
agriculture,
then we're more likely to live in a coarser and coarser society where we dehumanize people, just like we've taken away the reverence for the land and things like that. So when we become more nurturing towards the chickens, towards the fields and everything like that, we can have actually more nurturing relationships. So I won't remain an automaton for the rest of my life. I can actually be a good father and a good husband one day.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about nurturing in general, I mean, if you're nurturing the land, like I was telling you before, being a husband in general, the word husband means to care for. And animal husbandry is that same concept, to care for your animals. If you're treating your animals like crap, they're going to give you that same thing, right? Like you're basically, if you're exploitative, if you're exploiting your animals, they're basically not going to be quality. They're not going to live a quality life, and they're not going to produce quality food in general. And they're going to tear your land up. If you're exploiting them, they're going to exploit your land. So you can only do that for so long. I mean, look at the Dust Bowl in general. Like that happened because of poor agricultural practices, and then a drought happened, right? And then all of a sudden the land is stripped and torn. And when you live in a place and you're native to a place, you know that you want that place to survive, and not only survive, but regenerate and have a regenerative value in the future, so that you can give it to your children, or you can give it to your, the future of your family, your heirs.
So one of the concerns that I have when I was reading Berry's essay is that, so I had a multitude of concerns, which I think you're fielding quite well, by the way. So one of the concerns was that I didn't know if he wanted a more homogenized society where everyone returns to the land, so that we all become these nurturers of the earth, so that we, by extension, develop more virtue in ourselves and in our interactions with one another. But, it's land is not easy to come by.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And it's not necessarily a luxury or a privilege that everyone has.
Yeah.
I guess the question, and even if they wanted to make it sort of the telos of their life, I think a lot of people will be like, well, why does it have to be land? I mean,
Yep.
can I cultivate these
Yeah.
same virtues and values in other fields? Like,
Yeah.
so I'm a philosopher and a
Yep.
musician. Is there something, can I take the nurturing aspect into philosophy? Can I take that nurturing aspect into music? Or are those fields by their very definition or by their mere existence exploitive? Or you work in the IT
Yeah, I was
field.
gonna say.
Can you be a nurturing IT guy, or is it by very definition exploitive? Now, I don't expect you on camera to say like to indict your entire profession, but what do you think about
Oh,
the
there's-
malleability of our professional roles?
No, there's absolutely. So Barry is saying, and Barry is a writer. So in just being a writer, he's doing something else than being a farmer.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Like, and there's another farmer named Joel Saladin who's very much. He's like, yeah. So Barry, he's a writer who farms. I'm a farmer who writes. Right. There's a big difference. But like, you look at the colonists, or even our founding fathers, they were all like, I'm a politician and I'm a farmer. I am a lawyer and I'm a farmer. I'm a banker and I'm a farmer, because that's what they had. But I do agree that today's day and age, I mean, it took me a long time to get here.
Yeah, you've worked
right?
hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not easy to just say, oh, I'm working the land now, right? Like, this took a long time to get there, and not everybody can just gain access to land quickly. So I think that is a very noble position to take, which is, I want to be going back to the land. But I don't necessarily think that Barry is saying that, like, you have to be a farmer in order to be a nurturing person. In general, I think that you can take the concepts that you learn from the farm, the connectedness, and the nurturing aspects of the farming, and bring it into different fields.
So maybe an individual ought to have some interaction with farm life, and then take those lessons and apply them to different fields.
Sure,
Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yourself,
So maybe
you're a
make-
philosopher, if you're a musician, even myself, like I'm an IT guy.
Yeah.
But when we make decisions in the marketing world, we want to make sure that we're not making exploitive decisions, and we're not taking advantage of other people. And the goal is that we're actually being as efficient as we can, so that if we do have to use a resource that doesn't come from our specific area, that we use it wisely, and that we're not like just throwing it out. And a lot of the problems with North America right now is that we exploit an area far away, and that
We're totally disconnected from the source of
Yeah,
our
we don't even know.
exploitation.
I mean, look at our computer in general.
Yeah.
Like, the people who are manufacturing our computers, the people who are mining the different elements that are in the computers themselves. I mean, those lands are being torn apart.
So are we being hypocrites right now?
Yeah, totally,
Are
absolutely.
we, so what are we to do? What's the solution about that? Like,
Yeah.
because I know, I mean, presumably many of the clothes that I'm wearing have
Oh,
come at the
absolutely.
expense of exploitation of other
We're in North
people.
America. Everything that we do is exploitive.
Yeah.
In a way.
So what are we to do?
Yeah, so-
I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is
Yeah.
we're using this technology right now
Yeah.
to get an internet signal, to power my iPad, to power your computer, and
Yeah.
and to make this whole thing, to preach a gospel of anti-exploitation and
Yep.
nurturing and stuff like that. But
we're
we're
living-
doing it on the very backs. I mean, not
Of
intentionally.
others.
Not
Yeah.
intentionally.
Yeah.
And it's not just you and me. It's everyone.
It's everyone, yeah.
So
In
I
North
mean,
America, I
it's
mean,
an indictment
yeah.
of every. So I guess the thing is like how do
What's the
we
answer?
not become hypocritical? How do we have a back to the earth movement and advancements in technology at the same time? What I guess, can you prognosticate a future where we live where we get to enjoy the fruits of capitalism in a non-exploitive way?
Yeah, it's tough. I think the democratizing of information is the first step that the internet has brought. Even though it is exploited by nature, information sharing, and you're like the fact that I was able to find Wendell Berry
Like,
I
think how
would
many people
never
are going to turn on to Wendell Berry because of this now, right? Yeah.
Right. I mean, but I would never have even found him, or not. I don't think I would have ever even been interested in farming again, unless I heard through a podcast something that triggered that inside me. Right. Like something that says I was using technology, and ever since I had that spark, I've used technology to fuel my information. Right. Like to gain
Totally.
information, to gain
Right.
knowledge, to gain education in this field. And I think the information sharing is the first step, and I think the more we move into, I think the goal is do the best you can, be as least exploitive as you can, be connected to your sources of energy. So your sources of energy, your food, your housing, your information, your like all these different things. Be connected as much as possible, and move in the direction of just doing better.
Right.
Like it's
like if you're so worried about moral purity, we'll never advance anything.
Right.
Right.
We live here.
Yeah.
Right?
We have to work within certain parameters.
Right.
Right. So if we're going to make any sort of advancements in economic and social justice, we have to take advantage of it a little bit. Right.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, even down to like fossil fuels. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like.
I had to drive my car to get out here.
Yeah, you had to get here. Yeah, we wouldn't. I would not even know you again.
Right.
Unless we had the internet at this point, like
which is powered by coal.
Right. Exactly. And is used. We're using all kinds of elements from different countries. I mean, all over the place, and it's being manufactured in different countries. So, like, yeah, by nature, everything the clothes we have on our backs are made by someone in a foreign country that probably gets paid a lot less than we would want to be paid if we were in that country. So like,
well, I think it would be cool, right? I think part of what we're doing, right, is we're trying to introduce people to an agrarian lifestyle, and maybe usher people who are in an agrarian lifestyle into philosophy.
Yeah.
And people who are in philosophy who don't know anything about an agrarian lifestyle. We're trying to create this bridge between the two fields,
Worlds, yeah.
and I think hopefully by people seeing these conversations and reintroducing philosophy to the American public and stuff like that, at least in one way, I can see one good coming out of what we're doing here, that is not hypocritical. Maybe people stop buying things and start thinking and reevaluating their values. So someone watches this, maybe we're opening up a whole new world to them.
Yeah.
Maybe they become more agrarian, maybe they get interested in philosophy, and they stop, buying more cars or more clothes,
really
or more
being more
this.
mindful. Really,
Yeah.
it's truly being more mindful about the decisions we make in our life. Right, like I can't like do everything right. Like I haven't grown all my own food yet.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to that point.
Yeah.
But my neighbor, she does raw milk, and I buy from her. Like, and the more we can do there local, the more food we can buy, the more clothes that we can buy from our neighbors. We know that we're buying from a source, or we're creating locally, and we know that all those things are connected. And then what we're doing is we're creating a culture, right?
Totally.
When we have neighborhood productivity, we're creating culture. And after I go buy my stuff from our next door neighbor, we'll sit on the porch and talk. Like that's a different life than being completely disconnected and going off and not worrying about who our neighbor is. I mean, I lived in the apartments and never knew my neighbors, right? Like, it's really easy to just become disconnected from the people around you, but be really connected via the internet or via whatever.
Well, man,
I'm freezing, by the way.
Yeah, it's getting cold. I think we sort of resolved some issues. I think we kind of I think we distilled the major aspect of Berry's essay or whatever. I think we should probably tie a bow on this.
Yeah.
And hopefully people like it, and we can do another installment of it. If you're down, we'll do another essay, and we'll address a different aspect of the agrarian philosophy in the next one.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. All right.
Thanks.